Guys, Mike here, the Detroit Borg, with a look at the all-new Sony PS4, which is now half as thick as the PS3, retails for $399, includes a 500 gig hard disk drive, has a new 8-core AMD Jaguar CPU, an AMD Radeon GPU with 8 gigs of RAM, and is using the x86 architecture, which makes the PS4 a lot easier to develop for now, but unfortunately means PS3 games no longer work on the PS4. Now, this is the launch day edition, so this is the first day these are on sale. This has a 500 gig hard disk drive, which is easily replaced, so that means you can expand storage, or you could even add an SSD. Now, this also debuts with a new Sony DualShock or PlayStation DualShock 4 controller, which we're going to also take a look at, which has a lot of interesting features. Alright, so let's go ahead and unbox this. I'm just going to cut the tape here. Alright, just going to pop this open, and here we go. Alright, so inside we have the new DualShock 4 controller. Just one of them in the launch day edition. We got to remove that plastic here. So we'll take a closer look at this and compare this to the older PS3 model. We also have, looks like, some of our literature. There we go. Welcome to the world of PlayStation. So again, just a quick start guide, shows you how to set this up, plug it in, and that sort of thing. And of course, in different languages. Safety guide, of course, that's not very interesting. Now inside here, we should have our cables. So we have a microphone and a single headphone, which plugs into the new PS4 controller. We also have our micro USB charging cable. We have our power cable, and we have our HDMI cable, which is very handy to have. Of course, I will be using that. Now, the great thing here is that we do have integrated power supply, just like the PS3, so we don't have a power brick, we just have our cable. All right, so let's get to the PS4 itself, which is very lightweight, covered in plastic and styrofoam. All right, there we go. We got a little glossy and we got a little matte. Looks very sharp. So PS4 branding, and on the back we have all of our ports. So let's get situated here so we can take a closer look. All right, so let's take a look at the design of the PS4, which is now much more angular than before. You can see it has this sort of parallelogram effect. This also has that sort of contrasting material and texture with that matte plastic along with the glossy plastic. I actually think looks really sharp. So along the front we have our PS4 branding. We also have our USB 3.0 ports. You can see that the glossy plastic sort of wraps around the groove that surrounds the console. We also have sort of hidden in here is the Blu-ray slot, which has 6x speed. We also have these capacitive controls here, which are your power on and eject buttons. So if you look really close, you'll see the icons here for eject and power on. Again, capacitive, they are not physical. Now along the top, you also find an LED strip that runs the length of it. And of course, that indicates activity level and what's going on. So blue for normal operation, red if something's going wrong. Now along the right side, you'll find more ventilation. And in that grill, or that groove, you'll find your co-branding HDMI, DTS, HD Master Audio 7.1, Dolby True HD, and Blu-ray. Now, along the back, you'll find all of that ventilation, of course, needed to vent this beast of a gaming console. So we have our ports as well. So we have our PlayStation I port, which is proprietary. We have our LAN port, HDMI, optical, as well as our power port. Now back here you'll find these stickers covering up the screws, which are needed to open up the console for modification. Now, of course, if you remove these, they do void your warranty. Now up top you also find your PS4 branding, and along the right side again you find more grills and more ventilation. And as you can see, if you look down this groove here, it looks like it bows out a bit to accommodate the internals of the PS4. And that is about it. So let's go ahead and take a look at the bottom. Now along the back you'll find your PS4 branding, Sony Computer Entertainment Incorporated, and back here you'll find your feet for this when it lays flat, but you can also prop this up along the side. Sony does not currently include a stand, but they will sell you one separately. But if you want, you can just prop it up for now until you get that stand. Alright, so let's take a close look at the new DualShock 4 controller, which has been substantially redesigned from the DualShock 3 controller that came with the PS3. So the big news here maybe is the fact that it's just a lot more ergonomic. We have these much larger grips. You can see just how much longer those grips are now compared to the old one. There also is a texture on the back which helps for gripability and feels more comfortable than the smoother plastic on the old one. You can also see that we have these new joysticks which now have a concaved design as opposed to the convex design here. We also have a new D-pad with these larger controls, and some say that these controls are a little more organic feeling than they were before. We also have these new buttons up here for share and option. We also have a built-in speaker, so this can play back audio from the game right on your controller. Alternatively, you can also connect a headset right here. So the headset also supports the microphone. So for example, if you have your Apple EarPod, you could listen to your game as well as use the microphone input through that single headset. You also have the auxiliary port here, which is available for future expansion. Now, we also have our standard Sony controls here, and if you look here, pretty much the same. Doesn't look like there's a big change here. Same size. We also have our shoulder buttons and trigger buttons, which have also been redesigned. Again, if you look at that, you can see they're a little bit longer now this time, and they're also curved a bit, so it adds a little more better ergonomics to it. Now we also have our LED light back here, which allows the PlayStation Eye to identify the player. Of course, you do need the PlayStation Eye for that to work. This also has our micro USB charging port for charging the